Hi, it's Norman Kochnick here today. I'm actually not alone. I've actually spent my afternoon with a young Doug Walters. Now, Doug, as you would probably know, had a significant cricketing career himself, playing for Australia, and was one of the best middle-order batsmen I've ever seen, quite frankly. And very much, I think when you say Dave Warner-esque, it really should be Doug Walters-esque, because he was the one that first scored centuries in a session, like a one-day player but playing Test cricket, which is quite an amazing feat in itself. So Doug and I have just spent some time, the TV's turned off now, but we just watched the first day of the fourth Test between Australia and India, and I thought, Doug and I had a few beers. We've only one, of course. No, it was low calorie. It was nothing to worry about. But anyway, we were there. We had a good drink. We watched the game. We had a lovely afternoon, and we actually can talk a lot about not only about the current Test match, but also we can talk about your relationship, Doug, with Virat Kohli. What you know of him. Tell us what your thoughts are. So we can start with Virat Kohli. We can work towards the Test match, and then thirdly, Doug's experiences when he's travelled to India, and that was a fairly decent-sized career of games against India in India. So, Doug, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for that young bit that you introduced me. And not quite as young as I used to be, but you're only as old as you feel, they tell me.
That's true. That's true, Doug.
And I still feel fairly young. So, yeah, I've enjoyed the day's play. I mean, it's in the balance. And I think India have done a particularly good job today with a very new bowling attack. And it could have been a lot better if they'd taken one or two chances, but that's always the situation, isn't it? I mean, you hold your catches, you win the matches. That's what they say, and that saying's been around for 100 years, more than 100 years. But that is a pretty true statement. But Virat Kohli,
okay, let's start with Virat Kohli. That's right. Share us your impressions of Virat Kohli, the experiences you've had, what you've seen of him. What's your thoughts on Virat Kohli?
Oh, I think he's one of the better batsmen of all time.
Really?
I do rate him as the top of the tree as far as Indian batsmen are concerned.
Right.
And Sachin, I apologise for that, but I would rather watch Virat Kohli because there's not a shot in the book he doesn't play, and he's an aggressive player. He's a match winner. I think Sachin was an accumulator of runs, a great player, no doubt, but he's got that air of excitement, Virat, that he walks onto the ground, you know something's going to happen, and for the Indian sake, it often happens for the better.
And that's also about his captaincy too. He's quite an aggressive captain, would you think?
Yeah, he plays cricket in the way that cricket is supposed to be played, and I admire him for that as well. And I think he's been a great admiration since he's come onto the scene, and his record almost proves it, doesn't it? I mean, he's right up there with the best of any country of any time, any era.
And he certainly is, Virat Kohli, and he's being missed, you would argue, somewhat in this Test series now. He had to go back after the first Test based on the birth of his daughter now. Of course, that's one major thing, but let's turn our mind now to the current Test. Now, there were 4 players that made their way into the side today. In fact, there were 2 debutants, weren't they? Natarajan and the likes of... Well, not Shardul, that's his second match, after having only bowled 10 deliveries against the West Indies. He's got his second Test today. But of course, young Washington Sundar also had his debut today. What did you think of the players that came inside?
I thought they bowled pretty well. I thought they bowled exceptionally well. I mean, the Brisbane, the Gabba wicket is not a normal Gabba wicket. A normal Gabba wicket, and let's not forget that the first Test is normally played in Brisbane, not the last one.
True.
So the green grass on that wicket, it wasn't there, and it didn't assist the bowlers, but there was a little bit of swing in the air, and I thought they bowled well to the conditions.
Well, Shardul Thakur, didn't he? You were very impressed with him.
Oh, I was most amazed. I mean, the ball was 60 overs old and he was still swinging them away, and that was fantastic. He probably wasn't landing him exactly in the right area to get the batsman and nick him to slips, but he'll learn.
The fact that they were 5 for 274 today, the likes of the wicket was taken by, of course, Washington Sundar. He took Steve Smith as his first wicket. That was quite an impressive way. Shardul Thakur's first delivery, he got Marcus Harris caught at square leg.
Great way to start your career, isn't it?
It certainly is. And Natarajan, I think he took 2 wickets in the end. So he's bowled fantastically. He made, I think, Wade sky the ball, as well as Labuschagne. They both skied the ball off him.
Well, it was, 2 unusual shots for those guys. I mean, obviously, he'd put a little bit more effort into those 2 deliveries. They come through a little bit quicker, obviously, to get the guys off guard. And they both skied them up in the air. So, he's got something to offer.
It's been a long time, actually, since a team's had 4 players come in with 2 debutants and such a young bowling side. I think no one's played more than 3 tests. With Mohammad Siraj, that's his, in fact, he's now only played 3 tests, but he was the lead bowler of the pack.
Well, it's really amazing. I go back to my first tour of India in 1969, and India only had 1 bowler in their test side, and he only bowled 2 overs just to get rid of the shine off the ball so the spinners could come into action. Now, the big change in Indian cricket is the amount of fast bowlers that they've found suddenly. I mean, generation after generation, we all grow a little bit taller. And the Indian race, as I believe, or as I remember in 1969, they weren't tall people, but suddenly they've found some tallish people, and they've found some blokes that can bowl quick. I mean, Bumrah is not the tallest guy, but he can still bowl quick, and amazing. He proves the fact that you can still bowl quick off a reasonably very short run-up. And I'd think if he'd have been playing today, the whole thing would have been a lot different.
It's true, and the reality is they've lost Ishan Sharma before the series even started. Mohammad Shami broke his arm in one of the matches. Then you've got Umesh Yadav also out due to injury. Obviously, Bumrah this test, and also Ashwin the spin bowler. They were depleted, but they still put a pretty fair bowling attack together.
Oh, I'm amazed that they had enough players out here to put 11 blokes on the ground, to be quite honest. But they performed very well. And let's not forget that Brisbane wicket for the next 2 days will get better and better. So all India have to do is bowl Australia out for a reasonable total, and I'd say a reasonable total of 380 maybe. I would think, and then they can bat for 2 days and put us under a lot of pressure.
Interesting. Well, thanks, Doug. And obviously, Doug Walters, having played for Australia, one of the original one-day players playing Test cricket, in my opinion, the way you played. How many centuries did you score within a session in your career?
Well, in international cricket 3 times, and I done it all in 3 different sessions, believe it or not. So,
amazing.
Yeah, but you have your good days, you have a lot of bad days in between, and you've got to remember that. But when you're having a good day, you make the most of it.
Well, you certainly did, Doug. I mean, probably your most memorable was the session, the last day and last ball of the session, where you got, it was a 6, wasn't it? Where you off Willis, is that right?
Yes, that was against England in Perth in 1974, I think. So I didn't normally leave it to the last ball to get to the hundreds, and I didn't intend to that day, but that was the way it worked out.
Look, we could talk for a lot more. Now, Doug and I will get together again, but if you look behind us, we've got the Doug Walters Pavilion, the Doug Walters bars inside. Go back to the SCG, they've got a Doug Walters stand and bar. So Doug Walters is everywhere. I think this was from a hotel, the Oaks. I think there are more Doug Walters bars and stands than there are street corners in Australia, to be honest. Anyway, thanks for your time today, Doug.
My pleasure, Norman. Nice to be with you, and I'm looking forward to a great Test match.
Yeah, day 1, there's plenty more days to come. This is Norman Kochnik with Doug Walters here in Australia.